31 episodes later, and we've come to the end of the first year of the Travel More podcast. Listen as we chronicle our year of travel and inspire you to travel more in the new year.
Welcome to the Travel More podcast.
Each episode, we share custom itineraries, travel hacks, expert advice, and even stories of our past travel failures to help you level up your travel game.
I'm Shelly, a lover of plans, itineraries, and cheap flights. I'm an expert deal finder with one eye always on the budget.
And I'm Bruce, the improviser, ready to pick up where plans fail to turn letdowns into unexpected trip favorites. We're here to bust through barriers that stop you from making your travel dreams a reality.
So book that flight, buy the tickets, and say hello to your next adventure.
This is the Travel More podcast. Welcome back to the Travel More podcast.
The last one of the year.
I know, I can't believe it's been a whole year already. We've had
31 episodes.
31 episodes. This is the 31st episode.
I just can't believe it.
I know, and we were looking back and kind of, today we're just going to give a brief, well, it's supposed to be brief, but once Shelly kind of put together all the things we've done in a year, it's definitely a few pages, which...
We will not make you sit through a few pages. Yeah. We just wanted to kind of highlight some things that we did, and then we're going to go back actually in the first episode of the new year, and we're going to talk about our travel talk for 2023 and what did work and what didn't work and kind of how we're resetting it up for 2024, which if you remember from our very first episode, the travel talk is our most sacred day of the year where we talk all things travel for the year. So definitely tune in for that to see kind of the logistics of this. This is mostly just what did we do? Where did we go and how we kind of made it happen, although most of that's going to happen in the travel talk.
But before we jump in, we want to give a big shout out to Gina, who bought us a coffee on the Buy Us a Coffee kind of little button on our website. It's so nice to see this come through. You know, it's not even really about the little bit of money that helps us kind of keep going and fund this little project we've been doing for the year, but just hearing the notes and what people take away from this and
the
just
emails
getting to
we've
know.
Gotten, Facebook groups. I don't know. I agree with everything you're saying, Bruce. It's just such a nice feeling to know that we're hopefully helping people.
Yeah.
And that kind of, brings me back. As I was writing this script, I kind of had my own moment of reflection about the year. And I just remember us talking about this podcast for so long and all the blog stuff that we were doing and everything. And then we finally were like, we're just going to do it. And I just think that that's a good reminder at the end of the year, to take the leap of faith. And of course, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're starting a business or, a podcast, but look to plan that trip you've always, thought about. Don't just keep putting it on the shelf. Actually put some pens and paper, put a deposit down. Go see your friend that you've been putting off forever.
Right, and that's kind of where we started off with the whole idea of Travel More is that, we bring to you these kind of bigger picture, bigger plans, but it really starts with just these small wins, these small, commitments to do something, and it gets easier and easier to,
to do it.
Yeah,
every time you get out of your comfort zone, you're just one step closer to kind of living the life you dreamed of. I think that's how I see it. All right, philosophy over. Let's talk on what we did this year. And this has taken us a while too. We've always traveled, but we've never traveled like this. Really monthly kind of travel has only been probably in the last 3-ish years. We built this up over time by saying yes to all the smaller kind of travel opportunities that we had.
Yeah, it really did take, I guess we could say almost 10 years.
Yeah, we traveled in those 10 years every single year, but they weren't necessarily big places. And actually, if you keep track of where we're going in these places, they're not, a lot of them are what I would consider local travel. They're within a 4-hour radius of our house, which is a long weekend. That doesn't have to be, it's not a week-long trip.
Yeah, it's not like you're planning for a 2-week adventure with an 8-9 hour plane ride.
Yeah, no, we couldn't do that. We work regular school jobs, and so we have a lot of time off in the summer, and you'll see that we make good use of that time off in the summer. But in the school year, we really can only take the 3-day weekends, and that's about it.
But I also think that when I look at this year, it's really, we already talked about travel hacking because that's a big part of what we've been doing. So I think some of our travel we did this year was more informed by points and miles in the past.
And business.
In business, but also really going back to that travel talk, like you said, we're kind of revamping and reviewing for next year. I really stand by the idea that if you think about the times that you have and the kind of things you want to do and you make a goal around that, the destination will come to you and it'll be easier to do more and pay way less.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with last January. So we actually went to New York City 2 different times. We only live about an hour and a half from New York City, so this one feels like we're cheating a little bit because New York City I know is a lot of people's like bigger destination, and for us, we can go on a Friday and come back on a Friday. So, it's a little easier for us. We went 2 different weekends for 2 very different things. One of them was the New York Adventure Travel Show, and that kind of goes all over the country, and we had a great time at that.
It was great. Honestly, I think anybody who is into or wants to learn more about destinations, this one was cool because it wasn't just for people who sell travel or like agents and vendors. It was very much for travelers.
Yeah, I really liked it. And like I said, they go all around the country. So if there's one coming to you, it's not very expensive. And it's kind of a fun way to meet people from different countries and other travelers.
Yep.
So
not expensive, and there were a lot of giveaways and kind of things like that.
Yeah, we loved that. So that was one weekend, and that was our business. That was a business trip technically because we are travel agents. So that one was paid for with our business account. So that's a little bit of a cheat. But the other one was not. The other one was pure pleasure trip, which was to go see an off-Broadway show, Merrily We Roll Along, which I was obsessed with, still am obsessed with, and promptly bought a ticket to see the Broadway version because it went to Broadway shortly after. And we'll talk about that in September when we did do that. So
I can't believe that's the same year now that I think about it.
Yeah, I know.
I guess I don't always think of our year in like January, but
I
like
know,
summer
school years.
to summer.
We always think of like that. You think about that as a kid, and then when you're a teacher or you're someone who lives in that, you always, like for the rest of your life, will think of school as August to May,
the year.
August to June. Yeah. So that's pretty much what we did in January. We went to New York for those 2 weekends. And then we took 2 weekends off to sleep, hopefully. In February, we actually headed to Vermont for a very cold ski weekend. Do you remember how cold it was?
I do remember now, and I do remember getting feet warmers, which I've never done before.
No, Bruce constantly complains that his feet are hot.
It
Constantly.
was cold, dude.
It was so cold. You had feet warmer on. I cannot. When you put those on, I was like, oh, like this is real. It's really cold.
Humans shouldn't be outside if my feet are cold.
Agreed.
Ski boots.
Agreed. So we also consider that a local travel because it is only about 4 hours from our house, and our friends live there. So we're not paying for a hotel or anything. We're just going to visit friends. But it's a good reminder that don't put it off. My dad has that story about not going to see his friend in Italy, and he lived there for years and years because he was stationed in Italy. My dad's friend, that is. And he never went and saw him. And that, I think, is still, like, one thing is, like, man, I really wish I had gone to Italy and seen my friend. Like, there's really no reason for it. We just didn't, we didn't put the time aside and the budget and things like that. And don't let yourself have that regret. Go see your friends.
Yeah, you got to do it now.
Yeah. Go see the friends. And if you're like, man, I really want to, but I have no idea how I would, reach out to us. We can help you. We can tell you like what credit card we would open to try to get the points, or how we set up flight alerts from Google or Going or anything like that. We'd love to help people kind of make those trips come true. So if you feel like you're in a rut or you can't figure out how you're going to make that happen, reach out. We'd love to talk.
The more I think about this now, it's like, we should have called this our New Year's resolution episode because it's like
New Year's resolution.
We're
giving you some. We're giving you some ideas as New Year's resolution.
Because it's like all the things you think about, like, man, I could have done this, or I've wanted to do this, like.
And we're telling you, just do it. And if you need help doing it, reach out. Yeah. I'm not even, like, we don't even have a business doing, I mean, we do have the travel agency, but that's if you're going to Disney. And hopefully by now, if you go to Disney, you'll reach out because you have to listen to that ad at the end of every episode. So this is not even for profit. This is like my favorite thing in the world to talk about. So reach out, contact travelmorepodcast.com if you need help looking for flights. So really all we did in February was go to Vermont.
And March.
Oh, and then we went back in Vermont.
Yep. Well, ski time.
In March. Yeah, it is ski time. That makes sense. Another friend thing. We do a pretty good job at getting the friend group together about twice a year. Once for a ski weekend, again at our friend's house in Vermont. And then this year we actually didn't get to do a second friend weekend, which is unfortunate. But usually we go camping or something like that. So yeah, March we went back to Vermont. There were like 10 of us, and we went to this big ski weekend. And that's fun because we can pull people from different states, and that's another option is like, if someone doesn't live somewhere really cool, you want to go visit, pick somewhere in the middle and go together.
It makes me think of our Airbnb versus like hotel episode too. Mm-hmm. Like definitely if you have a big group of friends, I think looking at Airbnbs is usually better.
Yeah, or Vacasa that you can use Vacasa. Wyndham points on now.
Yeah.
Capital One. That's a little
good
travel
tip.
hack. Thanks. That's what we did in March. So we had like a pretty slow start to the the year. I will just warn you, it ramps up pretty heavily from now until the end of August. So in April, like 1st of April, we headed to Las Vegas for another travel show. This one was for travel agents, so I won't necessarily mention the name of this one, but it was really fun. It was also our first times in Vegas. So like, it was kind of a weird thing to balance, being like, we're in Vegas, but also working. So we kind of did both. But I think the best part of that trip, I mean, we did meet some really cool people, but sitting on that rooftop bar, like, they had this whole bar they bought out, a brewery. It was an open bar, like, fully open brewery with, like, their food just forever. Like, it was, like, an endless buffet of their food.
It was really cool.
It was really cool.
I gotta say, like, one thing that always gets me, too, is Las Vegas is a desert. And
yeah,
the weather is so it's like it was cold at night.
Yeah,
and
it was.
It wasn't even that hot in the day.
No, we were by fire pits at night up on that rooftop. It was very fancy. It was like the fanciest I've ever felt.
I also think I understand why they say, like, what, 1 night in Vegas is okay, 2 is great, and 3 is like too much.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that was a saying, but I agree wholeheartedly with that. You don't need,
yeah, it's like
no, you don't need more than that. This one was also like a crazy one, and this I guess is this one should have been just called like, here are potential New Year's resolutions for you, because here's my one, and I actually posted this on my Instagram before we did it. It was crazy. Like, we left after work on a Friday, and we didn't get into Las Vegas. We got at our hotel at like 2:57.
Yeah, do you remember we literally got to the counter and we were scrambling for IDs because the
computers were going to reset.
Yes, she's like, I need to get your stuff in here ASAP, or else we're gonna have to wait for an hour. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, and we had worked a full day and then flown for like 5 hours. It was crazy.
It was insane.
Yes. We
were
up at 9 a.m. to do the things, and then it's Vegas, and you're hanging out, and then we got home at like 11 p.m. after like a 6 hour time, or not 6 hour time change, 6 hour flight, but a few hour time change.
3 hours.
3 hour time change. And then had to get up at 5 a.m. to go to work the next day with children.
Yeah, that was tough.
That was a wild time. I would not have taken it back though. I was very nervous about it because of that like very close like window of opportunity. Would not have taken it back though. Was very cool.
Worth it.
Yeah. Sometimes it's worth not getting sleep for a day.
Was that Frontier or JetBlue?
No, it was Breeze.
That was Breeze. That was tough. It was like a European flight with no entertainment. Wasn't that like
a 6 hour flight with nothing on the back of the seat?
Yeah, that was rough.
I was not.
Oh yeah, the seats are like, you know what they're like on some of those what are they called? Not luxury. What's the opposite? Why can't I think of it?
Budget.
Okay. It's late. Yeah, you know, like those like cheap metal folding like beach chairs.
Oh yeah.
That's essentially what the chairs on Breeze Airline are.
That is.
It's like a net of like
very
canvas
harsh
against like a aluminum shell.
I did not think they were that bad, but
maybe it wasn't that bad.
Not knowing that they didn't have in-flight
Yes.
entertainment, that was our fault. We could have known that by
Should have
doing a
known
little
that.
research, but that was a lot to take in. So that was beginning of April, and then the next weekend we went to London for my dad's first ever trip to Europe.
That was fun because I know we talked about this was a big travel hack win.
Yes,
Because London was really expensive.
Really expensive.
And we wanted to take Shelly's dad, you know, somewhere different because usually we get to see him a couple times a year.
Yeah.
And we figured, well, we want to travel too, so why don't we go to the UK?
But you know why it was so expensive is because we didn't take our own advice and let the destination come to us. We specifically were like, we want to go to London on this week.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do? And because of that, we paid extra. Like, that's just, you know, that's how it goes. And that was okay for us for that one time. But that's just an example of like, we could have gone a lot of other places and not paid nearly as much. But because we were kind of like set on one destination, we ended up paying a little more. And that was okay. We did a ton. Like, we did Stonehenge, Cotswolds, Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, Oxford, saw a show at the Globe Theatre, did Camden Market, walked the Harry Potter set. I mean, we went to this awesome little cafe called Sheila's, met, like, the nicest people, sat with them for, like, hours in the morning one day. And I think my dad kind of understands our travel style now, which is our friend George's quote, "You'll sleep on the plane." Yeah.
That's true.
So then we took a break for the last weekend in April and slept, I assume. Because then in May we did a lot of local exploring, to like hiking around Connecticut and like New England in general. Maybe dipped into Massachusetts a couple times, so New York. Which showed us a lot of fun breweries we hadn't been to. We went to a couple little towns we had never been to. And we didn't even know existed. Like, we went to hike because we're like, you know, it looks like a nice hike. It's the distance we want to do. And then in that, we found all these other cool places. So I think that's like another
it's nice to know that
life lesson.
There's a lot right around you.
Mm-hmm. That you may not have any idea exists.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even thinking, like, yes, that exists in Connecticut. When Connecticut's really, like, dense. So, like, we have a lot near us. But even when I lived in Memphis, which is not as dense in terms of, like, what's around Memphis, there's still, like, some really cool places you can get to only an hour or two out. And for us, like, a 2-hour trip out, 4-hour round trip, I guess was what it would be. We would do that in a day.
Oh, for sure. Well, I'm about it because I think more than ever, people are trying to start up all kinds of small businesses, even in smaller towns that are not touristy. And I think it's totally worth exploring and supporting.
Yeah, absolutely. I will just mention that at the end of May, we went back to New York City to see Parade, the musical. Did you forget about that one?
I did forget. That was a good one.
We saw a lot of Broadway shows this year.
Well, you got to see more because we did end up going back to the city for...
In June.
Yes.
That's literally our next thing.
Yep.
You want to talk about that? That was yours.
Yeah, well, I got to sing at Carnegie Hall, which was really cool with my chamber group, Voices of Consinity. So that was really fun. We got to go back to New York, and Shelly got to see like 10 shows.
I had to see 3, and you saw 2 of them
okay,
with me. So it wasn't that. I saw 1 extra show.
Well, hey, shout out to the lottery, because I know I won Book of Mormon,
yeah,
which was awesome. Shelly's put in the lottery like 20 times. I did it once, and I won.
That's literally story of my life.
This is my luck versus Shelly's. So.
That's okay, though. We're together now, so I get to take that luck.
But that's a good tip. If you're going to New York, definitely, there's so many different lotteries.
Yeah.
And also the TKTS booth, like in the morning, go check it out. It's an easier way to see shows.
Yeah, that's what I did. So we won the 2 tickets to Book of Mormon, and they were like $45 each, so $90. And then, which is like half
really
the price.
Cheap.
Yeah.
And they were good tickets.
They were good.
Like, don't discount, people think, oh man, I don't know what people think actually, because there's different opinions, but I've always liked sitting up above, and I don't mind being in the back of the house of a Broadway theater. There's
so few bad seats in a Broadway theater. Like, we saw, I keep bringing this up, we saw Merrily We Roll Along off Broadway in like a 150-person theater on the second row. I could have touched Jonathan Groff in front of me, or Daniel Radcliffe. And then we saw that exact same show pretty much, and we saw it way up in the rafters on Broadway. Still an amazing show.
Like the wallpaper's behind me.
Yeah, I mean, like before I could have touched the actors, now I can touch the back of the house. Like, we are so far back.
It didn't matter.
It did not matter at all. Nah. It was still a phenomenal show. But the TKTS booth, it's kind of just like all the Broadway shows that have extra tickets for the day. They'll sell them at discount. I kind of went on a limb. I was by myself when I bought these, so I kind of had to make the decision on my own. So I went and saw Leah Pistalt, which won Best New Play in 2023. I saw it literally the weekend it won the Tony, so that was pretty awesome. And then we also saw Grey House, which is a total flop, and closed like 2 weeks after we saw it. So you win some, you lose some. Wouldn't change the experience on either one.
No, that was fun.
Because, it's almost just as fun to see a flop as it is.
Yeah, I honestly...
a Tony Award winner.
That was like, it was a flop. I feel like it could have been a lot better. I enjoyed seeing it. We
talked about it for like 2 days, and I think that honestly that's worth the price of admission.
I feel like intention was to be something that people argue about.
Yeah. It was weird, and it didn't have a real ending or beginning. I don't know. It was a strange show, but it definitely got you talking, and that's what I think good art does. So
for sure,
I'd do it again. So that was also the time I met those the talent director or the talent agent and the director couple that were like going to the Tony Awards.
That's right, because it was that weekend.
Yeah, and I just went to a random I found the bar on like Eater or something like that in Times Square, because Times Square, ugh. So I went to like the one I found that was like, this is a cool bar, and I sat next to them and talked to them for like hours. Like we were so entangled in that conversation that you came and were like, all right, we're good. And I'm like, can you just get a drink? Because like I'm not totally done with these people. So that was really cool. When in New York, I guess.
All right, let's speed it up a little bit because we got the summer coming, and it's going to be like
I tell you, it slows down. It slows down, just not yet.
Well, so summer hits, we go down to Memphis, which always fun. Barbecue, family, music.
It's our yearly trek.
Yep, and then we made our way down to Panama City, Florida, just for a stopover, see a friend, and then.
Well, we used to live there.
Yes, we used to live there because grad school. And then it makes the drive not so bad from Memphis because it's like 7 hours, 8.
Oh, yeah.
And then like 6 hours, you're in Orlando and we went to Disney. which was always fun.
Another
Wait, is that
yearly
the
trek.
one? Is that the one? Did we go to Jelly Rolls?
Yes.
Oh my god.
It's too much.
That is too much.
Jelly
If you
Rolls
ever-
got us.
Yeah. Dueling Piano Bar. Too much drinks. Anyway.
It was very fun. We go down every year to Universal and Disney because of our agency. So this is our Disney trip, and then our Universal trip is a little later.
It was fun though. Now that I'm thinking about it, I remember because it was a little while since we had gone to Disney, and we did it very differently. Like
Yeah.
we stayed in a different type of hotel.
We did 2 new hotels to us.
Yes, and
Yeah.
it felt, I kept being like, I've never been here. That was fun.
It was fun.
A different take on things.
Yeah.
And then that was pretty much it. I mean, our first kind of summer dip down and back to Connecticut, stop over in North Carolina, and that's when we used a Marriott Bonvoy free night certificate, which is always nice. So we talked about that, some of the benefits of having those like loyalty cards, you know, so it's like specific. You know,
That drive is so much better when it's 7 and 7 hours as opposed to, or 8 hours and 8 hours as opposed to 19 straight.
yes, I've learned. I guess we haven't learned about doing weekend trips to Vegas, but I've learned about not driving 20 hours in one day.
Yeah.
So some things I've grown. Yes.
Yep, and the one time we did have to slow down a little bit because you worked in the beginning of July, so we did take a little bit of a breather. But just to prep for our actual like big trip of the year, which was we went to a lot of Scandinavian countries. And this is a first for me. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but you're free to email me about it. I'd love to talk about it more there. But I actually got a grant to pay for this trip. So I'm a science teacher, and I got a grant to kind of study climate change and its effects on mainland Norway versus Svalbard, which is an island also in Norway, but it's to the north of the mainland.
The Arctic Circle.
Yeah, it's like it's as far north I think as you can go on land.
I think it's the furthest northern settlement.
Yeah.
There's no other settlement further north.
There's no native
Farther north.
people, I think, actually on Svalbard.
No, I
Yeah.
don't think so.
So it's a wild place, and it also is permafrost, so it's a much different kind of feel in terms of climate change. And so it's actually a grant. It's called Fund for Teachers that all teachers, I think, in the United States can get, and it's not a super difficult one to get. They really have kind of this mission statement of they want teachers to experience the world, so they bring back those experiences to their students. And so I've talked to a lot of people about it this year, and a lot of my friends are applying. It was a very easy process. It was not a super intense grant. Like, I love them. I think it's a really cool thing they're doing, and I do think that kids learn better. I've already put pictures and things on my board. I brought up slideshows of pictures of, like, walrus and even, like, the glacier melt and things. Like, when we hiked a lot, and so, like, there's a lot of glacier melt like research stations that were set up that we took pictures of, and we were talking about Arctic ice, and I was like, look, I can literally show you. And I just think that engages kids and puts everything into like a more worldly perspective, which I hope is like where we're going, you know, as a country and
Yeah, for sure.
and education.
I know it's fun because even when we were there, I was sending videos and pictures back to my students that were doing extended school year, like summer school stuff. And my good friend put a slideshow together, and the kids still think about it and ask about it. So.
Yeah, so even though it wasn't even your grant, it like still helped your students. So very cool, fun for teachers. If you are a teacher listening, no matter where you are in the U.S., please look that up because it is very cool, and I can help you come up with some ideas if you would like. So we spent 2.5 weeks in Norway / Svalbard, which is also Norway, but it's a little different. And then we were there, so we figured why not take the advantage of being in Europe. And so we ended our grant trip, and we went on our own trip to Copenhagen.
Yeah, and we know we're not going to talk too much about it because Shelly and I definitely want to do some episodes that are more in depth about this because we had a real fun time in Copenhagen, kind of splitting the trip and planning it solo. Like I did my own planning, and then Shelly did hers.
And then you guys are going to get to vote which one you think is better, which is clearly mine.
No, come on. Come on.
No, yours is very fun, but I'm well-versed in planning.
Okay, this is
like
true.
my thing.
This is true, but I think it was fun. I think we're definitely going to do it again on another trip.
Yeah.
Like we will both like kind of pit it against each other, but that's going to be some part of some of our content next year is like looking back at these trips. And it was nice to kind of, we pulled the grant trip together with Copenhagen because we also, just to top it off, to cap it off, we did a Disney cruise because we were already there.
Yeah. And again, agency stuff. So that was a travel agent perk that I had. But yeah, that capped off our month in Europe. And it was funny because it was very similar, like places we had been. So it started in Copenhagen. It went down to Germany and to some other places in Denmark, Sweden. And then back to our old friend Oslo, which we got to say goodbye to as our last stop on the cruise, which is kind of fun because obviously we started the month in Oslo and then we got to end it there. So it's a nice cap off to the month in Europe.
It was fun. It was nice and relaxing. We'd never done a Disney cruise, so we kind of wanted to figure it out. And because it was, Disney cruises are definitely more expensive than some of the other ones. So
but it gave us a really good idea of what the expense is.
Right.
And you really don't know unless
what
you
are you
do
paying
these things.
for?
You know what I mean? You don't really know unless you go.
It was definitely awesome. And man, if you have a family or multi-generational, I don't know that there's a cruise line that's going to beat that type of service.
Yeah. Honestly, one of the best parts of a Disney cruise is like eating your, lunch or whatever and like just watching these kids you're like watching them make core memories like right in front of you. It's pretty sweet.
It is cool.
Yeah. So then we headed back to the US on our business class flight because that was our fancy one.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, we talked about that in the travel hacking episode.
We're spoiled now.
And then things actually did slow down just a little bit because we had to start school back again.
Yeah, so I thought we were going to kind of take it easy when we came back. And I remember Labor Day weekend was usually when we were going to go with our friends. We're like, you know what? It's okay. We've got to take some time and relax. But then Labor Day weekend came and nope. We ended up going to Providence, Cape Cod.
Yeah, Provincetown.
Not Providence. I always do that. Providence, Rhode Island. P-Town.
P-Town, yeah.
Yes, Provincetown, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm doing it again. Provincetown, Cape Cod.
Yes. Massachusetts.
Massachusetts, because your brother flew in to kind of explore and hang out. So we had to drive. We couldn't just not meet him there.
That was we call that adventure energy when he calls me at 7 a.m. and says, I'm in Provincetown today. You guys want to come? It's a 3-hour drive from our house. And we're like, you know what? Sure. And we just went.
I think it's relative because it's like if someone visited Nashville from Memphis, it's a 3-hour drive. It just feels like there's so many things between where we live in Cape Cod that it's like...
it is. But it was worth it.
It was fun.
It was worth it.
Really fun. So then a couple other things we did in the fall. We went to, it was fall festival
Tons
season.
Of them. Yeah.
So definitely went to the Big E, which is always fun. One of my favorites. We went back to New York to catch Merrily We Roll Along again in Broadway, which we already talked about, in the cheap seats. And then, of course, in October, we went to Universal for Halloween Horror Nights.
Which is our yearly tradition, which we talked about back in the Halloween episode.
So definitely, love to do that. Such a fun tradition.
Yeah, that's our Universal yearly trip. It's good to know. That's like a half business, half pleasure, because it is a time that we use our agency to kind of like check out what's new and exciting at the different parks because we do focus so heavily on the 2 parks in our agency. So we want to know what's going on.
Yeah, we want to stay up to date.
Yeah. And then in November, everything came to a screeching halt. We drove to Ohio. Because in October, we actually lost our first adventure buddy, Benny, our dog. And it was much too quiet in our house. So we drove to Ohio to get a puppy named Pippi, which somehow has slept this whole episode. So congrats, Pippi. This is the only time our house has been quiet since November. Because she
seriously.
is very loud. But yeah, so really things did actually slow down since the beginning of November because of that. We've kind of kept close to home.
Yeah, it's getting towards the end of the year, and at Thanksgiving time, we kind of stick around here anyway.
Well, a lot of times we go to New York, but we canceled that one with my dad just because it was too much with her. We just gotten her. And
too much with a puppy.
Yeah. So we're training her up to be a great adventure dog, which hopefully will lead us into what we're doing next year. We'll keep it a secret for now. So yeah, that's our year in review. We had a couple of big trips, but we didn't pay for them all. So, our Grant trip and a couple of business trips. But a lot of our trips, honestly, were just getting out of town for the weekend. If you really look at it, that was the majority of our trips this year.
Yeah, a lot of local travel. And, a lot of things we were able to do this year, we did do with points and miles. So costs were not super high.
No, if anything, not like the last year. Last year were way higher.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, this year was way lower than last year.
Yeah, we were really, really able to keep it kind of in a really nice budget. And the only thing we spent was our time. Which it was awesome. So.
Yeah, not the only thing we spent. We did spend some money.
Well, yeah, I know. I just mean we did spend a lot. Now I'm looking about this. I'm like, we spent a lot of time traveling, which has been great.
Yeah.
So hopefully with all these different types of trips and variety of things, we'll inspire you guys to do some of your own next year.
And putting it in your New Year's resolution, which now I feel like is what the name of this episode should be. But come back with us in January when we do the travel talk, and we kind of go back through a revamped version of the travel talk and how you can use it to make your 2024 your best year of travel.
Yeah, and come join us on our Facebook community and let us know what was your favorite trip of the year.
Yeah,
we'd love to hear it. So find us there, Facebook group.
It'll be in the show notes.
There you go. Link in the show notes.
And we'll see you next year.
Yeah, see you next year.
Did you know that every time you book a Disney or Universal vacation, you're paying for a service that you may not even be using?
Really?
That's right. Travel agent costs are added to your Disney or Universal vacation, whether you use one or not.
So you're telling me that I'm paying for something even though I'm not getting the help?
You got it. So next time you want to book a theme park vacation, make your money work for you. By booking with Magic Pass Travel, you'll get our expertise and years of experience without paying any extra and while supporting a small business.
Check out our show notes to find our contact information.
Can't wait to help you plan your next adventure.